You wake up, and some days you don't feel like moving. You don't feel like showing up, training, working, thinking, or growing. But this is where the path begins. Not when it's easy, but when it's hard. Discipline is not built in comfort. It is carved through resistance. You must force yourself to move when the body wants to rest, to focus when the mind wanders, and to keep going when everything says stop. Consistency is not a gift, it's a practice. You repeat it again and again, whether you feel strong or weak, whether it rains or shines, whether motivation is present or nowhere to be found. Consistency is the quiet power that will turn your struggle into strength. It is not about massive action, it is about small steps, repeated daily, with awareness, with intention. There is no shortcut. You want growth, you want peace, you want power, then understand. It does not come from wishing, it comes from doing. It comes from showing up when no one is watching. It comes from aligning your actions with your goals, even when your emotions try to pull you away. Your body wants comfort, your mind wants excuses, but your spirit, it craves freedom. And freedom only comes through discipline. If you wait to feel ready, you'll wait forever. Push yourself, remind yourself, you are not weak, you are just not trained yet. Train your mind to stay present. Train your body to endure. Train your heart to stay open even through pain. And slowly, you will become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. Keep going. Even if it's slow, even if it's messy, force yourself to stay on the path. Because one day, you will look back and realize you didn't conquer the world, you conquered yourself. And that is the real victory. Most people wait for the perfect moment. They wait to feel ready, to feel motivated, to feel strong. But the truth is, those moments are rare, and if you wait for them, you will stay where you are. Progress does not begin when things are easy. It begins when things are hard, when your body feels heavy and your mind is filled with doubt. That is the real starting point. That is where discipline is born, not in comfort, but in resistance. When the alarm rings early and the bed feels warm, that's the resistance. When your legs ache from yesterday's effort and your mind whispers, just skip today, that's the resistance. When fear creeps in and tells you that you are not good enough, not ready, not strong, that is the resistance. And this resistance, this internal struggle, is not your enemy, it is your training partner. Because only through that resistance will you grow. You cannot build strength without tension. You cannot develop focus without distraction. You cannot cultivate discipline without temptation. You have to face the moments when you don't feel like it. These are the moments that define your path. Everyone can move forward when everything is going well, but to move forward when nothing inside you wants to, that is power, that is freedom. It's not about being better than someone else, it's about being better than your excuses. It's about mastering your impulses, your moods, your laziness, and that mastery only comes from repetition. You force yourself to get up, you force yourself to show up. You force yourself to stay on the path, and slowly what was once difficult becomes familiar. What once felt impossible becomes normal. You do not overcome resistance once, you meet it every day. But each time you face it, each time you move through it, you become a little more stable, a little more focused, a little more unshakable. The mind starts to trust the process. The body begins to respond. And your spirit, the part of you that doesn't shout but whispers truth, grows stronger. Do not expect the resistance to vanish. It won't. Even the strongest people feel it, but what separates them is how they respond. They don't wait for motivation, they act in spite of it. They don't negotiate with discomfort, they lean into it. This is the secret. You must become comfortable with being uncomfortable. You must understand that growth requires discomfort. The same way fire needs heat. Without it, there is no transformation. Think of a blade being sharpened. It doesn't become sharp by sitting still. It becomes sharp through friction. You too must allow that friction into your life. Do not run from it. Do not hide behind distractions or excuses. Face it directly. Let it teach you. Let it shape you. This is how you build the life you want, not by chance, but by choice. Every day you choose to rise above your emotions. You take one step closer to the person you were meant to be. And remember, this discipline you build, it is not separate from the rest of your life. It touches everything. When you train your body, you also train your mind. When you force yourself to finish the workout, to keep going when you are tired, you also train your heart to stay strong when life is difficult. This is not just physical, it is mental, it is spiritual. The act of showing up every day, especially when you don't feel like it, is the foundation of consistency. It's how all the other pieces fall into place. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for ease. Force yourself into motion. The resistance you feel today is the exact pressure needed to shape your strength for tomorrow. Keep going. Most people believe that consistency is something that arrives naturally, when you feel inspired, when life is flowing, when everything feels aligned. But that belief is the first trap. Consistency is not something you wait for, it is something you create. It's not born from emotion, it's forged through action. If you rely on how you feel to determine what you do, then your path will always be unstable. Feelings change. Discipline does not. Some days you will wake up with energy and some days you will not. Some days your mind will be clear, and some days it will be clouded with doubt. But your decision to act must remain the same. That is consistency. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, it's quiet. It's doing what needs to be done, even when you don't want, especially when you don't want to, because that is where the real transformation begins. Not in doing things when you feel good, but in doing them when everything in you wants to stop. The world constantly feeds the idea that motivation is the fuel for progress, but motivation is fragile. It comes and goes like the wind. You cannot build anything stable on something so fleeting. Instead, you must become the kind of person who acts regardless of motivation. You brush your teeth whether you feel inspired or not. Why? Because you've accepted that it's non-negotiable. This is how you must treat your goals, your training, your growth, non-negotiable. Not based on how the weather feels outside, not based on whether people support you, not based on your mood, but based on the truth that growth requires repetition. You want to improve your body, then show up, not once, not for a week, every day. You want to train your mind, then read, reflect, practice, not when it's convenient, every day. This is the quiet force behind every person who has ever mastered anything. They did not become great because they always felt like working. They became great because they worked anyway. Your emotions are not enemies, but they are not reliable leaders either. You must learn to observe them without becoming them. When your mind says, "I'm too tired," your discipline must reply, "Do what you can." When your heart says, "I don't feel like it today," your inner warrior must answer, "That's exactly why we do it." Every time you act in alignment with your purpose, rather than your mood, you strengthen your core. You remind yourself that you are not controlled by emotion, but guided by commitment. And something happens over time. The more you act with consistency, the more your identity shifts. You stop being someone who tries, and you become someone who does. You stop wondering if you're on the right path, and begin to trust that walking it every single day is the answer. You build confidence, not by thinking positively, but by witnessing your own actions align with your goals. Confidence is not a feeling you chase, it's the byproduct of discipline. Understand this. Consistency is not about intensity, it's about frequency. It's not about doing everything perfectly, it's about showing up imperfectly, again and again. You don't need to crush every workout. You don't need to have deep insights every time you meditate or study. What matters is that you return, that you keep going, that you don't allow one off day to become a habit of avoidance. One missed step doesn't break you, but walking away from the path, that's what steals your power. There is no finish line, there is no perfect moment when everything clicks and effort is no longer needed. Consistency is not a phase, it's a way of being, it's a relationship with the present moment, showing up fully, doing the work, letting go of the outcome. And when you live this way, the future takes care of itself. You don't need to force greatness, you simply need to return to your practice, over and over, until greatness becomes your nature. So the question is not, how do I stay motivated? The question is, can I stay committed when motivation fades? If the answer is yes, then you will walk forward through any storm, not because you feel ready, but because you've trained yourself to move, no matter what. That is what makes you unstoppable. Keep going. When people think about progress, they often imagine giant leaps, sudden breakthroughs, powerful changes, rapid success. But this thinking is what keeps most people stuck. Because the truth is, the path to real transformation is not paved with big moments, it's made of small repeated steps. It's not about how fast you move, it's about how consistently you move, one step at a time, without stopping. There is a quiet strength in repetition, doing the same thing again and again, not because it's easy or exciting, but because you've chosen it. You don't grow by doing something once, you grow by showing up daily, by practicing with awareness, by letting the process shape you. That one workout will not change your body, that one moment of clarity will not change your mind, that one decision of discipline will not change your life, but repeated over time, these small acts begin to form something powerful. It is not about perfection, it's about presence. Each small step you take with intention builds a layer of discipline. Each decision to stay on the path, even when no one is watching, adds another brick to the foundation. And over time, that foundation becomes unshakable. It becomes who you are. You don't need to force a revolution in your life overnight. You only need to decide, every day, that you will take the next small step. The mind often resists this. It wants results now. It wants proof that things are working, but progress is often invisible in the beginning. You won't see the strength building. You won't see the mindset sharpening. But if you trust the process, if you commit to the repetition, you will wake up one day and realize you've changed. You didn't notice it happening, but the work was happening all along. This is why awareness is so important. Don't just go through the motions. Be present. When you train, train with focus. When you study, study with attention. When you practice stillness, practice it fully. Because it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. Mindless repetition is not growth, but repetition done with awareness becomes mastery. And mastery is not born from talent, it's born from discipline and time. Too many people give up because they think their steps are too small. They think their efforts don't matter. But every drop fills the bucket. Every brick builds the wall. Do not underestimate the power of what you do today. It may seem small, but it is a seed. And a seed doesn't grow into a tree overnight. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be watered. It needs time. Your consistency is that nourishment. And if you stop giving it, the seed dies. But if you stay patient, if you stay steady, the roots grow deep. And once the roots are deep, the growth becomes unstoppable. So take the pressure off needing to do something extraordinary every day. That pressure is an illusion. The real work is quiet, simple, even boring at times.
but it is sacred, because every small act of discipline shapes the way you think, the way you move, the way you see yourself. You begin to carry yourself differently, not because you've arrived at some destination, but because you've built a new foundation through consistent conscious action. There will be days when your steps feel slow, days when you feel like nothing is changing, but these days are not wasted. These are the days that build resilience. These are the days that test your commitment. And when you continue anyway, when you keep taking those small steps, you become something most people never become, someone who doesn't give up. And that is rare, that is powerful, not because it looks impressive on the outside, but because it transforms you from the inside. You stop needing results to validate your effort. You stop needing applause. You simply show up because it's who you are. You become consistent. You become grounded. You become free. Keep taking the next small step. Most people misunderstand freedom. They think it means doing what they want when they want, how they want. They think freedom is the absence of structure, the ability to relax, to avoid discomfort, to live without discipline. But this is not freedom. It is chaos dressed in comfort. Real freedom is not found in doing whatever feels good in the moment. Real freedom is found in discipline. Without discipline, you become a prisoner of your impulses. You become trapped by your moods, your distractions, your cravings. You let the moment dictate your direction, and you lose control of your time, your energy, your potential. You may feel free, but you're not. You're being pulled in every direction by whatever feels easiest. That is not freedom. That is slavery to the mind's lowest habits. True freedom is when you choose your actions with purpose, not based on emotion. It is when you no longer need to negotiate with yourself every day. You don't need to ask, should I train today, or do I feel like doing this, because the decision has already been made. Discipline eliminates the need for constant debate. It sets you free from the exhausting cycle of starting and stopping, committing and quitting. With discipline, you are no longer pulled by the chaos. You are anchored. The world will always offer you comfort. It will always tempt you with ease, with distraction, with shortcuts. And the more you take them, the weaker you become, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Your ability to stay focused begins to fade. Your inner strength begins to shrink. The muscle of discipline, like any muscle, weakens without use. And when that happens, you start to feel lost, anxious, uncertain, not because life got harder, but because you became softer. This is why discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your clarity. It protects your values. It protects your future. It is not there to restrict you. It is there to guide you. When you have discipline, you don't need to rely on willpower every moment. You don't need to wake up and wrestle with your schedule. You already know what to do. You've chosen your path. And once you've chosen it, you walk it. No matter what emotions rise and fall, the more disciplined you become, the more peace you feel, because you're not constantly reacting to life. You're responding with purpose. You don't need to chase every opportunity, every thought, every impulse. You're centered. You know who you are. You know what matters. And that clarity becomes your compass. Some people will say, it's too rigid. They'll say, it's too strict. But what they don't see is that on the other side of that structure is a deeper kind of freedom. The freedom to trust yourself. The freedom to say no to what doesn't serve you. The freedom to create a life that aligns with your values, your mission, your potential. It doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you become strong. You still face the resistance. You still meet the discomfort. But now you don't run from it. You know it's part of the path. You lean into it. And each time you do, you grow more stable, more focused, more free. Discipline is a form of love. Love for your future self. Love for your goals. Love for your potential. It is saying, I care enough about who I am becoming to stay on this path, even when it's hard. It is not about control for the sake of control. It is about freedom through commitment. There will always be days when your mind wants to drift, when your body wants to rest, when your spirit feels quiet. On those days, return to your discipline. Let it carry you, let it protect you, let it remind you that freedom isn't found in what you feel, it's found in what you choose. And when you choose discipline, over and over again, you step into a life of purpose, not reaction. That is real power, that is real freedom. Keep going. So often we speak to ourselves with words that weaken us. I'm not disciplined, I'm not motivated, I don't have what it takes. These phrases don't come from truth, they come from habit, and behind them is a deeper misunderstanding. You are not weak, you are simply untrained, you are not broken, you are just unfamiliar with the process of building yourself. Strength, focus, clarity, they are not traits you're born with, they are skills, they are earned. Just like the body is built through training, the mind is sharpened through repetition. Every single person you see, who walks with discipline, who speaks with purpose, who stands with calm in chaos, they are not special, they are not different from you, they have simply trained longer, they have simply refused to quit, they have walked through the same resistance, the same doubts, the same discomforts, and they kept moving. Training is what bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and the only thing required to begin is willingness, not perfection, not confidence, just willingness. The willingness to start where you are, even if you feel weak, the willingness to show up, even if you're uncertain, the willingness to repeat the basics again and again, even when they feel small. That's how strength is built, not all at once, but over time. When you train, you are telling yourself, I am not settling for this version of me. You are telling yourself, there is more in me, and I will find it. You are not waiting for life to change, you are choosing to change yourself, and that choice, repeated daily, becomes the foundation of everything else. But training is not just physical. You train your focus when you meditate, you train your patience when you stick to the process, you train your emotional control when you don't react in anger, when you stay centered in discomfort. Every moment is a chance to train, every obstacle is an opportunity to sharpen your inner weapon. That means nothing is wasted, not your failures, not your delays, not your setback. All of it becomes fuel. Of course it's hard, of course it's uncomfortable. That's the point. You don't train to stay the same, you train to evolve, and evolution is never easy. It breaks you down, it exposes your weaknesses, but if you stay with it, if you breathe through the struggle, if you return after falling, if you accept the pain as part of the process, then slowly, you transform. This is why comparison is useless. You may look at others and think they are stronger than you, faster than you, more focused than you, but what you don't see is the hours, the years, the quiet moments of discipline they've invested. Stop measuring your beginning against someone else's middle. The only question that matters is, did I train today? Because even a small effort, if done consistently, creates change. You train not to become perfect. You train to become prepared, prepared for the challenges, prepared for the unexpected, prepared for life. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. So train deeply, train with presence, and remember, every time you train, you cast a vote for the kind of person you want to be. There is no weakness in starting small, there is no shame in not being there yet. Everyone begins with unsteady steps, with self-doubt, with failure, but training doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for persistence. And if you can give that, if you can keep showing up, you will surprise yourself. You will begin to carry yourself differently, not because life suddenly got easier, but because you became stronger. So do not label yourself as weak. That is not who you are. You are simply untrained, but you are willing, you are aware, and that is more than enough. Keep training, keep showing up, keep going. We live in a world that constantly whispers in our ear, Take it easy, you've done enough, rest now. And yes, rest has its place, but not before the work is done, not before you've honored the path. Because, when you give in too early, when you stop just because something feels difficult, what you're really doing is breaking a silent promise to yourself. You're stepping off the path, and every time you do that, it becomes easier to do it again tomorrow. That's how momentum is lost, not with a crash, but with a quiet surrender. The way forward is not to stop when it gets hard. The way forward is to keep going, especially when it gets hard, because that's where growth lives, just beyond the point where you normally quit. That moment when your legs shake, when your focus drifts, when your patience wears thin, that's the exact edge where transformation begins. But most people never reach that edge. They stop at the first sign of friction. They slow down when they should speed up. They wait when they should move. You have to train yourself to do the opposite. When the body says rest, ask, have I earned it? When the mind says stop, ask, is this my limit, or just my comfort zone? The answers will show you the truth, and more often than not, you'll realize you still have more to give. This is not about pushing recklessly, it's about becoming aware of the mind's tendency to escape discomfort. The mind wants to avoid the unknown, it wants to protect you, but growth does not happen in protection, it happens in pressure. It happens when you lean into the struggle and find a new part of yourself on the other side. This is why you must learn to continue, not casually, but intentionally. Don't wait for someone to push you. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Push yourself. Make movement a habit, not an option. When the plan goes off track, adapt. When the move is missing, act anyway. When you don't feel like it, show up. This is how you earn self-respect, by keeping your own word, even when no one else is watching. Consistency is not built on the good days, it's built on the hard ones. Anyone can move when they're excited, but can you move when the fire is gone, when the energy is low, when no one believes in you? That's what counts. That's what builds a core so strong, nothing from the outside can break it. This is also why you cannot afford to over-identify with your emotions. Feelings are real, yes, but they are not always true. They come and go. If you attach yourself to every wave of doubt or discomfort, you will never stand still long enough to grow roots. But when you learn to observe the emotion, feel it fully, and still act in alignment with your goal, that's when you become unstoppable. You don't need motivation to do this. You need a reason deep enough to move you when nothing else does. Find that reason, write it down, keep it close. Let it speak louder than your excuses. Let it remind you that you're not here to repeat the same patterns. You're here to rise. And in the moments when quitting feels easiest, remind yourself, you've come too far to stop now. Every step you've taken, every effort you've made, every moment you've chosen the harder path, it all matters. None of it was wasted. It was preparing you for this very moment. The resistance you feel now is not a sign to stop. It's a signal to dig deeper, to trust the process, to believe, not in the result, but in your ability to endure, to adapt, to rise again. You have more inside you, more strength, more focus, more resilience. You just haven't called it forward yet. And the only way to meet that version of yourself is to continue, not because it's easy, not because it's convenient, but because your future depends on it. The path is simple, but not easy. Keep showing up, keep moving forward, keep going.